Hey there guys, what's going on? Today we've got another video in our best weapons in Modern Warfare series. Season 2 has of course brought with us a newly buffed weapon to mess around with, and this is a weapon I'd actually never used before this patch. The weapon we are of course talking today is the SA87, which is an LMG with a smaller magazine size than the class average, and handling that is a bit on the slower side. Now, like I said, I'd never used this weapon before this patch, so I actually have no idea how strong this was before the buffs, but man, this is an absolute monster now. Like, you just absolutely shred people, and it doesn't even have that much recoil. Like, realistically, it's one of the lower recoil weapons in the LMG class. I don't think any of the LMGs in this game have absurd recoil, and this one is no different. We recently made a video featuring the SA87 with a very bare bones class, and I was wondering what the actual best class setup would be. So I do have you covered with the best class setup for the SA87, which, like I said, is a really powerful weapon in this game now. It does mean damage and it feels really strong. This gun feels like a slower yet more powerful assault rifle. It is pretty unreal. But just before we do get into our class setup here, let's try and get this video to 8 likes. The support for the videos has been really massive recently and so special. Like, massive thank you to everyone who's been watching, liking, leaving comments, subscribing, doing all these lovely things. It's so great and I love it so much. We are ever so slowly getting closer to 500 subscribers, so we're working on that. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button with the notifications turned on if you haven't already, so you don't miss any more of my videos. Right, let's talk about the best class for the SA87. Okay, so as I said, the SA87 feels like a more powerful assault rifle that hands a bit slower, which is pretty interesting. It feels a lot like a slower M4 with great damage and minimal recoil. You'll very likely be getting 2 to 3 to 4 shot kills with this thing. Like, from anecdotal evidence with this thing, it is a 2-shot kill if you land those 2 headshots, which is pretty wild. It should be about a 3 to 4 to 5 shot kill to the body depending on the range. So with this class setup, in my opinion, we have maxed out the SA87 here by making it as mobile and fast handling as possible. I'm really happy that they keep giving these underutilized weapons big buffs in this game. Like, it's always refreshing to use something different in this game, and that's what keeps it fresh for me. I just keep coming back to those weapon buffs, man. I love it so much. If I was maybe hoping to get them into buff, I'd probably be looking at like the Uzi or maybe even like the Striker 45. They probably need some buffs. I feel like those guns definitely do need some love. So let's talk about our SA87 class here. So starting off with our sidearm perks and grenade choices here, we'll go over them quickly because they are mostly the same in pretty much all of my classes. Our sidearm is the X16 pistol, which we've got akimboed, which is pretty cool that I found recently. We've got the monolithic suppressor, the Vanguard elite barrel, the 5mm laser, the lightweight trigger, and the akimbo perk, of course. Perk 1 is, of course, kill chain. It's so powerful, getting that cruise missile into VTOL, into advanced UAV. Perk 2 is Ghost, really helps you stay off those UAVs, plus if you do get advanced UAV'd, you'll be harder to track down. Perk 3, of course, battle hardened because stuns and flashes are still busted in this game. In the lethal slot, we've got the C4, and the tactical slot, we of course have the stim shot because it is busted so strong in this game. So starting us off with our attachments here, we do have the barrel slot. We have the SA87 25.4 inch factory option. This is one of those barrels for the SA87 damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control at the cost of aim down sight speed and movement speed. This is always the perfect barrel option for pretty much every weapon in this game. Like, most of the weapons, as I say this all the time, most of the weapons would always like to shoot a little bit further, a little bit faster, and be a little bit more accurate. And the SA87 is, of course, no exception to this rule. The other barrels that we have here, the 18.2 inch and the 12.4 inch barrels, are both quite powerful for mobility, but they sort of lack that little bit of bullet velocity and that punch with the recoil control. Like, there's just something missing with these two, so I wouldn't pick them. They're sort of overshadowed by the rest of our attachments because we can just sort of pick up the movement speed and aim down sight speed from other places. So we do skip these two. So the best option that we can work with is the 25.4 inch barrel, the largest option available, and it makes this weapon pretty good. I've also got another little tip to talk about in the rear grip tape section, but for this slot in our barrel slot, of course, we have the SA87 25.4 inch factory. We typically don't run a muzzle option here because we normally would run either the compensator or the monolithic suppressor, but they do give you those aim down sight speed minuses, that little bit of minuses that aren't really that usable. Like, I feel like the range benefits that we do get are outweighed by the aim down sight speed. Sort of the loss that we get is sort of not really worth it to pick up a muzzle, so we skipped it, of course. The laser slot is one of my favorite slots in this game for most weapons. So in this slot, we do have the tac laser, of course, that aim down sight speed, aiming stability, and aim walking steadiness. You do, of course, have to deal with the visible laser when you do aim down sight. We have got a combination of attachments here that make this weapon as fast handling as possible. I love the tac laser in this game. It makes weapons aim down sight just so snappy. Just like with this attached weapon, aim down sight so quickly. It's so great. The tack laser also does help you stay on target with that aiming stability and aim walking steadiness, makes it a little bit easier for you to hit those shots. If you are worried about the visible laser getting you killed, you've got to practice better crosshair placement. If you aim at the door or wall where the enemy is about to come out, once they walk through, you just hit that shot. Once you practice this, you'll definitely improve your game and get a little bit better, and it just makes it easier to use. So for me, the tack laser is just such a powerful option with most ARs and LMGs and SMGs in this game, so we can't help but pick the tack laser for this weapon. It's such a great option. We have, of course, skipped an optic here. We don't have anything in the optic slot. We would like to run the Geo Mini Reflex, of course, but I think the iron sights for this particular gun are fine. I don't really have a problem with them. Like you can see them there. They're usually pretty okay. They're not too obstructive or they're not too in the way. So we don't usually run an optic here because we don't really have the attachment slot. Plus, it does give you a little bit of aim down sight speed minuses, so that doesn't help us with an LMG, basically. Moving on to the stock slot, of course, we have a really neat option here. The Forge Tac CQB Cone gives us that aim down sight speed at the cost of a little bit of aiming stability, but this gun really does need that extra aim down sight speed. Again, I feel like we do have a really strong combination of mobility attachments here, like just mobility and handling attachments. Like with this setup, you probably won't even remember that you're using an LMG. It'll feel like an assault rifle. The SA87 is just super powerful and does crazy damage, and with the aim down sight speed attachments, it just feels unbeatable. It's so strong. The other attachments, of course, in the stock slot aren't really that useful. Like you could make an argument for the stock that does give you that aim walking movement speed, which is the ultralight hollow, give you that stalker bonus from previous games, but I feel like that's not as useful as sort of the aim down sight speed. But this is mostly a personal choice, so if you do feel like moving a little bit faster, you can choose this one, but I'm a big aim down sight speed fan, so this is a really strong attachment here. So moving down to the rear grip slot for everybody's favorite, the stippled grip tape. Aim down sight speed and sprinter fire speed, of course, are some of the best stats that you can have on pretty much every single gun in this game, and this includes the SA87, of course. I'll say it again. With this setup, you can be found running around, being aggressive. Like, you'll always want to get those sights up as quickly as possible. Plus, sprinter fire speed can actually save your life if you do get taken by surprise. Feels really strong to get those sights up super quickly as you are sprinting around. Another tip in my class setups, this is what I was talking about before in the barrel section. If you do pick up the heaviest, largest barrel, you'll always want to throw on the stippled grip tape, or at least whatever grip tape has those stats. Really balances out the handling you lose from those big barrels, and it's a really powerful combination. It's how I make most of my classes, and it has worked a lot for me. This is a really powerful option for pretty much every weapon, including the SA87, which naturally handles a little bit slower because it is an LMG. So we need this really beneficial attachment. So of course, in the rear grip tape slot, we've got the stippled grip tape. We have, of course, skipped over the perk slot here. I feel like sleight of hand would be the only usable one in this slot, but the rest of our attachments are designed to make this weapon as mobile as possible, and we'd be giving up a little bit of aim down sight speed to swap this out, so we have skipped this one. We've also skipped the ammo slot, even though the LMG only does have 30 rounds. It feels like it is enough though. We're trying to make this weapon as mobile as possible, so adding more bullets, as you can see here, detracts from that, makes it a bit slower to handle, make you move a bit slower. So we don't really want that. We don't want to lose that aim down sight speed, basically. We can get it back from other attachments, but it doesn't feel like it's worth it here. Like in this particular case, 30 rounds does seem to be enough. If you do feel like you'll need more ammo though, you'll probably have to swap it out for the stock slot, but we haven't though, so I've skipped it here. And lastly, we need something to tackle the little bit of kick that the SA87 does. I did say that it doesn't have too much, and that is true, especially with the bigger barrel option. So in that slot, we do have the Ranger foregrip for the recoil stabilization and aiming stability. You do lose a little bit of movement speed with this, but you can sort of pick that up and you don't really have to worry about it too much. You're never going to be missing that movement speed too hard. There are a couple of other options here, but they do make us less mobile, so you can always go with like a Merc foregrip or an Operator or a Ranger foregrip if you're really looking for that recoil control, but of course it does make you that much slower. So we've gone with the option that doesn't actually affect our aim down sight speed, and it's really powerful. Like, I just feel like the Commando foregrip is a really underrated attachment in this game. Like, you unlock it pretty much first on every gun, and it's sort of overshadowed because it gets unlocked so early. But yeah, this is one of the better attachments. It helps keep you on target, and you don't really have too many troubles if you do use this. So in the underbarrel slot, we do, of course, have the Commando foregrip. So this is our full class setup here. This is all the attachments that we have chosen for the SA87. This is our pretty good class setup. Like, I really do like this weapon now. Like, since it did get buffed, I never used it before it did get the buff, but it must have been pretty good already, and now that it's got buffed, it is a great weapon in this game. It's one of my favorites at the moment. We'll level it all the way up to 55, like you can't go higher than that, and it's really powerful. Like, so this is, of course, the best class setup for the SA87. If you did enjoy this one and it did help you out at all, make sure you do leave a like and do subscribe if you are new around here. It would very much help me out, and I, of course, very much appreciate it. We're, of course, on the way to 500 subscribers, and it would not take too long if you did help me out there. Thank you very much for watching this one, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!